Never seen a lame man walk, never heard a dumb man talk, never seen a blind man see. I promise you will change his name. Never seen a canceled debt, never seen all the poor get fed, never seen a prisoner set free. I promise you will change his name.
What is up, everybody? I said everybody.
Everybody
In the podcast getting tipsy. Well, never mind. I don't know what I'm talking about. Welcome to the Big C and Bigger T podcast. I'm your boy, Travis Johnson, coming at you as Bigger T on YouTube, on Apple, on Spotify, on TuneIn Radio, on iHeartRadio, on Samsung, on Amazon, on wherever else you might get your podcast. We're there, and I'm joined as usual by my boy Big C, Clint Clark. How you doing, buddy?
Man, I'm great, man. I hope you're doing well. I'm excited about today's podcast. I've been like bugging, like, when can we get Patrick back on? When we get Patrick back on? And you're like, man, come on, it's our podcast. We can't just bring Patrick on every week. But I love it when I have Patrick on.
That's right. There's times that we just flow through and we just do our thing. But then there's times we class the joint up.
Yeah.
And that's when we bring our buddy Patrick Netherton on, coming to us live from Shreveport. He is the host of the Patrick Netherton Show, which airs weekdays from 3 to 5. You can find it on 1130 The Tiger, but a lot of folks here are listening from other places not close to Shreveport, probably outside that range. So you can find it on his Facebook page, The Patrick Netherton Show. Just go like and follow that. But Patrick Netherton, my boy, my college buddy, the man that I share the hands with, Patrick Netherton, how are you, man?
What's going on, guys? How are we?
Man, doing just as we like to say here in Arkansas, hunky-dory.
Okay.
Hunky-dory.
That's a very Arkansas phrase. I know that. Yeah.
Yeah. Now, if I was just okay in Arkansas, we would say fair to middling.
Yeah.
You know what fair to middling means?
I mean, I do know what it implies.
You know what it implies, yeah.
Yes.
You're doing all right. Could be better, but you're doing all right.
Yeah.
You know where it came from, though?
No, I don't actually.
It's actually grades of cotton.
Oh, there you go.
In the middle grades of cotton is fair to middling. That's the
Okay.
middle grades.
Well, when I think of soft and fluffy things, you're the first person that comes to mind.
Well, thank you.
He's very cuddly. He really is.
Yeah. Although I think I might be stealing the bit from the comedian Fluffy.
That's
so
right.
I don't want to do that.
What's his name?
We steal bits all the time. Don't feel bad, Patrick.
Yeah, that's
Okay.
right. Well, Patrick, man, how was your Memorial Day weekend? I saw on social media you were making some smash burgers on the griddle. How'd those turn out, man?
They turned out really good. I see. Funny thing is, I don't really like smash burgers, like the little thin patties. I don't like those. Like, I want some meat in my burger, and I don't want to have to put like 4 patties on a burger to get there.
Yeah.
So I did kind of half smash burgers, but it's the first time I've used that technique. And the difference is when you do kind of regular burger cooking, you form the patty and you get it all set and then you throw it on the grill. With smash burgers, you actually just take meatballs. You throw the meatball on the grill, you let it sit there and kind of get where it wants. And then you take some sort of smashing device. In this case, I had a bacon press and you push it down. Now, when you're doing a traditional smash burger, it's a smaller meatball. You push down and it gets that little thin burger, that crust forms. You flip it, the crust forms on the other side. That thing's done in like 3 or 4 minutes. I want more meat, so I didn't do quite as heavy a press. I had them about probably a solid 1/4 to 1/2 inch, something like that. And got a great crust on one side, flipped them, cheese them, and they're good to go. It's the first time I've just used that particular smashing technique, and I will use it again. It was a big hit.
That's actually how they discovered. It was the guy that invented was the founder of White Castle. He actually invented the modern day hamburger by using that technique, because by then they were trying to do it in meatballs, and he just got frustrated because someone was rushing him and smashed the burger on the grill.
Did you say what castle?
White Castle.
White Castle. Oh, I got you. I thought you meant what castle, like you weren't sure which castle you were trying to go find.
It's your old headboard is where it was.
Yeah, no, I told Travis, I said, look, now that I'm streaming, I actually have a setup in my office where I've got a microphone and I've got everything set up. Unfortunately, I no longer have the great headboard behind me to.
I know, we got to find some other majestic background for you to.
Yeah, it's just a blank wall. Maybe I could just toy with putting things up behind me as we progress. Like I've got a CBS Sports Network sign that I stole from the Brando show.
There you go.
We can throw that thing up there.
Hey, you're getting some views on your Twitch, right?
Yeah, we're up to about 80 followers. I only just started on Twitch about a month ago.
Right.
Yeah. Facebook gaming over 300 because I did that last year for a little while. So we're starting to get a little traction. And
seriously, how much of that do you contribute to the Big C Bigger T rub that you got?
Well, I don't like to talk about the Big C Bigger T rub in public if I can help it. I felt like that's a private matter between the three of us and probably shouldn't be out in the public. But since you mentioned it,
yes, I brought it up.
I'm going to go with 4. For what?
You're being too generous.
For what? I don't know, but 4 is just the number that popped into my head.
It's a good number.
Yeah, it's a
Tell about what
quality
you're doing
number.
there, Patrick.
Do what?
Tell about what you're doing there.
Oh, so I have a gaming page on Twitch and Facebook where it's called Netherton Gaming. Again, super creative, just like the title of my radio show. Just basically, I play COD Mobile on my iPad, and I've got a little dock connector that I use. I connect my iPad, and basically I can stream playing on COD Mobile with my my camera here. I can do all of that all at the same time. And it actually turns out really nicely. It's it looks good, looks sharp. People come in, they can play, join in and play if they want. We can do squads, we can do duos. People can join in and play. It's kind of interactive in that way. Some people just watch. And then on Twitch alone, I'll do some other stuff like word games and Pictionary type games, that kind of thing, just for a little bit of a change of pace. But people seem to enjoy it. They like the content. And so I'm happy to help because look, it's the summer. I don't have baseball games to call. I don't have football games to call. I don't have basketball. I'm doing nothing. I got my radio show for 2 hours a day and I'm doing nothing the rest of the time. So why not fill the gap with some gaming content?
Yeah.
Well, and Patrick's a guy, Clint, does lots of things. Okay. He's not only the radio show, the gaming, he's the voice of Northwestern State Demons for what, football, basketball, baseball?
Football, basketball, baseball, yeah.
And also, if that's not enough for the guy to do, he also does some ride sharing, right?
Yes, I sure do.
And I hear there was an interesting deal. This weekend?
Yeah.
You had a run-in with a volleyball team?
Yeah, so I Uber and Lyft on the side, just kind of, a little extra cash, a little extra income. And I was Ubering, and I only do XL, which is like the big cars, because I don't need to do it a lot. It's not like my full-time job. So XL pays you a little bit more. You're typically going to get maybe a little higher end clientele. It's not going to be picking up people's groceries from the Piggly Wiggly kind of thing. So we don't have Piggly Wiggly here. But anyway, so
if you did.
No, it'd be great. I'd make so much money. So I just had my Uber XL on while I was sitting at the house. I get a call. I go to a little kind of shopping area, and I pick up, and standing on the street corner are 6 fairly tall, blonde women. They were just standing on the corner of this little strip mall area. So I'm like, is this, y'all Uber ride?
Like,
yes, I get them all in there.
Right now?
Yeah, like I don't know what's going on. So I picked them up, and it turns out that they are 6 members of the German women's national volleyball team. We're having the Volleyball Nations League tournament that is happening here in Shreveport Bossier. It actually started today at 5:00, and the U.S. plays in 12 minutes. I don't know when this is airing, but it'll be Tuesday night at 8:00 that they play. And so I end up driving them back to their hotel. I get to tell them all about Shreveport and, restaurants they should eat at and what they should do and all of that kind of stuff. And I will say, I got out of the car, let them all out, and 3 of the 6 of them were taller than I am, and I'm 6'4". So it was, it's not very often that I feel short in any scenario, especially around a bunch of women, but I felt short, and they couldn't have been sweeter. And I hope they do really, they don't beat the Americans, but I hope they do really well at the tournament, because they really were sweet and very considerate and seemed to care what I was talking about, although they could have been faking it. What else is new?
Well,
I do that with Travis all the time.
That's right.
I understand.
Clint's very sweet to me at times too, but he does talk with kind of a weird accent also.
What
Okay.
Castle?
That's right. What Castle?
Like people always tell me because there's not an R in Wash.
Yes, sir.
Yeah, that's a very Missouri thing. Like that's a St. Louis, Missouri kind of thing. So
I don't know where I got it from, but I got it.
yeah, Wash.
Well, as you know, Patrick, we always have a holy shnikes moment.
Sure.
And, going back to our love for Tommy Boy and Chris Farley and holy shnikes this week. Tommy Pham, a outfielder for the Reds, and during pregame warmups was caught on camera Will Smith slapping Jock Peterson of San Francisco Giants in the outfield, along the outfield wall. So afterwards, some reporters started asking, and they asked Jock Peterson about it. And so apparently Peterson had accused Pham of stashing players in their fantasy football league because he put a player who was listed as out on his IR so he could pick up another player to play that week.
Right.
Okay. So that's why what Peterson said was what made him made Pham want to jack slap him. Now, have you ever got mad enough at fantasy sports that you wanted to slap somebody like that?
I'll be honest with you. There was a time if Bob Stubbs would have been in front of me, I might have decked him over fantasy football. He got me spicy before. Now that was of course I'm 45 now. I've calmed down, but there was a time in my 30s.
I'm a man. I'm 45.
I'm a man. I'm a grown up now. But yeah, younger me, I wanted to slap Bob Stubbs once. I really did. And but Bob knows it, and I'm sure I annoyed Bob. So
Yeah,
I can
sure.
What about you,
Patrick? You ever gotten that mad over?
So number one, I'm not as T knows, I don't get mad. I'm a really low key. It takes a lot to get me angry. I actually stopped playing fantasy football. I'm going to say about 6 years ago. I started fantasy football when we were in college, back at OBU. I did a fantasy football league where I had to keep track. I was the commissioner, and I had to keep track of the stats by hand. Like I had to go, Yahoo had just started. They weren't, fantasy football really wasn't a thing yet. The draft was in person. And I basically went through the box scores every week and compiled everyone's stats week in and week out. And I did that for a couple of years. Then obviously we kind of got to where we could get in a league and it would work that way. But I try my best not to assign a whole lot of emotion to things that really don't matter. Now, the difference in this being apparently that league was expensive.
Yeah.
Apparently there was and they won't say, nobody's saying how much everyone was in for, but and look, these guys make millions. But if there's a league I'm 4, 5, 5, 6 figures in, I might have gotten a little upset, but at the same time, it's not like that's not a valid strategy. If he's got the guys, like, then he can do what he wants with them. Just get better guys.
You have the space on your roster, stash.
Yeah, I mean, stash them. I mean,
I've done that before with quarterbacks.
Yeah, if you've got the ability to do it, do it. It's not like he was cheating. Which, by the way, this will preview the Saban Jimbo conversation that we're going to have in a little bit. Just remember, you can do it even if it's not cheating. Sometimes it does look a little bit suspicious.
That's right. Well, I want to go Paul Harvey on this because now it's time for the rest of the story.
Oh,
because
I didn't heard
this
about
is where
you brought it up earlier.
There's more to the story.
Okay.
And Clint, I have a feeling where this is where you might say, "Oh no, I might have got jack slapped."
Okay, go ahead.
Okay, because this is something that I could see you making somebody that mad about.
Good.
Okay.
It's because I'm a legendary internet troll. So let's go.
When Fam was interviewed, he said, "Yeah, that did bother me. That did bother me. That's all that, that's all that Peterson had said that it was, right?" Well, Fam said, "Yeah, that did bother me. But it was another deal from Peterson that pushed Fam over the edge." Fam said that Peterson put a meme, and this is all from Deadspin, okay? This is where I'm getting all this.
Okay.
A meme in their league's group chat. Okay. He trolled him, Clint.
Oh.
That meme was of 3 people attempting to throw a very, very heavy kettlebell over the heads of the people in the meme. The people in the meme were the logos of the Giants, the Dodgers, the team that Joe Peterson spent most of his career with, and the San Diego Padres. So apparently the kettlebell landed on top of the Padres person or something. So it wasn't necessarily the move for the fantasy football that part of what made him mad, but it was the trash talking on their post on their group text and the meme that he used that got him jack slapped.
Well, I will say this, and I'm not going to go into it. I think, judged off what you said, I had more of a right to be mad than Tommy Pham did. That's all I'm saying. Yeah, I don't want to relive it because I've grown up since. I mean, it's a meme, and the guy didn't do anything illegal.
Yeah.
I want to be for Tommy Pham here because he used to be a Cardinal, but I can't be. He's coming off as a baby here. I know you didn't ask my take, but that's what it is.
Okay. Patrick, what could have made?
Yeah, I mean, about the only way you'll get me to slap you, I've actually slapped another human being once, and it was for charity. He asked to be slapped. Yeah, it was great. He told me, he said, "Look, I'm going to call you the P word if you don't give me put something behind it." So I gave him about 95%. But look, if you're getting upset over a meme or you're getting upset over what's going down in fantasy football or whatever, I would tell you maybe you're competitive in the wrong areas. Right now, if someone comes and I got a rack of ribs in front of me and they try to grab the last rib, they might get smacked.
They're going down.
Something, yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I keep telling everyone 2 things. One, if you're one of those women that always wants to share my food, the answer is no. I will be happy to buy you whatever you want. You want some fries? Let me get you some fries. Don't eat mine. I have my fries in front of me. And if you reach over, you may be pulling back a nub. Like that's just the case. Matter of fact, I did have a buddy of mine, the same one I slapped, as a matter of fact, who told me that I will know when I found the right woman, when I will let her eat off my plate.
That's right.
And I was like, that's actually probably very accurate. But look, be competitive in the right areas. Try to help your team, that kind of thing. Don't get mad over fantasy football. Don't get mad over memes. don't get mad over things that don't matter. It's just a waste of your energy.
That's right.
100% agree.
Especially when you're a professional athlete.
Yeah. And here's the thing. How many times are people yelling at him, you suck? And I'm sure they're yelling way worse just based on his name alone.
Yeah.
Right. I'm sure they're yelling horrible things at him. And you're going to get mad because some dude sent you a meme.
Yeah.
Come on, man.
Yeah. Okay.
People
Patrick, as a professional radio guy,
and
a guy that's been a professional radio guy for a long time now.
Long time.
I want to get your we've had a story happening here in Arkansas
Mm-hmm.
about another professional radio guy said some things that have caused a little bit of a ruckus. Okay, got him in trouble a little bit, and I just want to get your response to it. You haven't.
Okay.
You've heard a little bit about it, but you haven't heard these quotes.
Well, I'm a little bit colored in this because Wright's Barbecue was the first person to that I saw that jumped in there and said, "Hey, we're going to cancel this guy." Basically,
Yeah.
I'm like, well, I do like Wright's Barbecue. It's really
Yes,
good.
yeah.
So, and Jordan does a hell of a job. So, I don't know what this guy said, but I'm ready to cancel him. Let's
Okay.
go.
Here's what happened. Arkansas has a catcher who's a transfer portal guy. I think a graduate transfer. Came from was it Kent State, Clint?
I believe so.
So he's just a 1-year guy, right? As you saw, Arkansas struggled toward the end of the season. Okay, we've had it kind of tough. So you know how it is in any fan base.
Yep.
When you've been number 5 or higher most of the year,
Spent all last season number 1.
and you're all of a sudden you're sliding at the end of the season to where you're not even hosting a regional.
Right.
The fans are going to start chirping on Twitter. Okay. Well, in a post-game press conference, Michael Turner, this catcher, said something like, this is a hard place to play. And then he said, there's a lot of people that are good fans. Some aren't so great of fans. If you read Twitter after the game, it can get in your mind a little bit. Okay. So that was the main thing he said.
Right.
About the fans, and sort of that was seen by this Derek Ruskin is the name of the radio.
No, which I was going to talk about what Turner said right there. I didn't see a lie at all.
No.
Twitter is a huge issue because you don't have to stand behind your words.
That's
when
right.
you can speak anonymously to people. You can say anything you want. And it comes back to the Mike Tyson quote, right? People have gotten very comfortable not getting slapped or hit or whatever for the words that are coming out of their mouth, not suffering consequences for it. And that's probably the number one issue about Twitter. So I completely understand where he's coming from there.
Yeah. And he was just, to me, I think he was being honest.
Yeah.
Yeah.
He was saying, yeah, that stuff bothers us. Most athletes will say, oh, I don't pay attention to that. When it's a lie.
Sure.
It's a lie. You cannot live your life without, when someone says something bad about you, it gets to you. Somehow you hear about it. Okay. Anyway, well, Derek Ruskin of the Ruskin and Zach show on ESPN Arkansas in Northwest Arkansas, it's played, like we have a radio station that carries it down here in South Arkansas.
Sure.
It's played kind of.
That's the old Bo Mattingly slot, right?
I believe it is.
Okay. Yeah.
He said, well, first of all, he called him a stupid A. Okay. He said, you're a stupid.
Right.
Okay. He said, first off, you're not a Razorback. You're a rental player and you sucked. So thank you for nothing, Ruskin said Friday of Turner, 5th-year transfer out of Kent State. Secondly, as a rental player, you can't come in here and criticize this fan base. You stupid jerk. Not a chance. The question was about what's wrong with the team, and you used the whole answer to give this fan base a swing. Ruskin railed. You are a disgrace, Michael Turner. You are a disgrace. That uniform again, what a loser. Do you know why you're losing? Because you're a loser and you're the catcher. You're in charge of this whole thing on the infield. You're a loser and a disgrace, and you can't get out of this program soon enough. That was his response.
Well, maybe Ruskin needs to learn how to express himself.
Or maybe he needs to learn who's actually in charge of the infield, which is typically the shortstop. Look, here's the thing. I actually got in trouble back during basketball season because I was frustrated by, and I'm the voice of Northwestern State.
Right.
Number one team in the league was there. They were, kind of giving it to the Demons. And they had one player in particular that he hit a three and he'd turn around and he'd mock our fans, and he'd hit a three and he'd turn around and he'd mock our bench. Like, he had a real attitude about him. And I understand some kids play with an edge, some need to try. And if you trash talk to other players, I don't care, right? That's what y'all do. But when you're starting to, now you're looking at our bench and you're taunting us, you're looking at our fans and you're taunting them. So it was halftime. They're walking off the floor, and I said, this kid, I won't say his name. I was like, this kid he's a great player, but he's also a very big punk. And that's the word I used, was punk. I said, he's a very big punk. He's been talking trash to our bench, to the fans, all of that stuff. And someone heard it. It was actually one of the Nichols assistant athletic directors that heard it and brought it up on Twitter. Well, look, I shouldn't say that, period. I don't care what my frustration level is. I don't care, where the season is, now, if this kid is doing, if he's out there punching kids, then maybe we can talk. But I shouldn't say that. I knew that. I stepped over the line. I'm frustrated. I'm talking out of frustration. And so the real lesson to be learned is, and I apologize to everyone, and I think most people figured out that I was just frustrated by the whole thing. But the real thing is, number one, you don't need to talk about kids. They're not professionals, even though they get paid. Oftentimes, they're still not pros. They're amateurs. And if you can't understand where he's coming from, I don't care if he's a quote unquote rental player. He's here in his fifth year, whatever. This is a kid that obviously wanted to come to Arkansas. He wanted to play here, and he might even have a better vantage point on your fan base than you do.
That's right.
Because he's coming in from a different program and he comes in with kind of no expectations. He hasn't grown up in the Arkansas program. He's not, he hasn't been a part of it. And here's the thing, like we talked about, Twitter is a real problem when it comes to the fact that everyone gets to voice their opinion anonymously. If they choose, they don't have to. But if you choose to be Jim 539248753 and your profile photo is an egg, and you want to come in there and tell this guy that he sucks and he's the reason the Razorbacks are losing or whatever, that's not okay. Like, I'm sorry, it's not okay for you, and it's certainly not okay for a professional broadcaster to say those kind of things. If you want to express your frustration and say, hey, this kid, he underperformed from what we thought he was going to do. He's obviously frustrated. We're frustrated as well. Like, everyone's kind of talking out of that frustration. That's one thing, but you can't single out kids like that and talk down to them. If it's a professional, it's different. Still not, I don't think, okay, but it's different if this is Derek Jeter. You're saying, oh, this guy's in a slump, whatever. If you're talking about him, but these are still kids. They're still 19, 20, 21-year-old. I don't care if they're getting paid the NIL money or that kind of stuff. It's just not something you should say. Find a better way to express that you're frustrated. Just take his quote to task. You don't have to insult him in that. Just say, hey, I didn't appreciate what he said. You don't have to go into a personal insult about him without, while you still can deconstruct the quote and say why you don't agree with his opinion. You don't have to, you can disagree with someone without demeaning their character and who they are as a person.
And 100%. And one of the things, like Nolan Richardson said when towards the end of his run, after his run was over, it's like, I built a beast. and you've got to feed the beast. If you're not feeding the beast isn't happy. And that's what Arkansas baseball's become.
Yeah.
I mean, we've had former players saying, look, we've become spoiled.
Yeah.
We had a decent season. It wasn't the greatest season, but everybody's got these high expectations now.
Yeah. No, it's 100% accurate that, with it's Kentucky basketball. I wonder how much different it would have been if that foul ball gets caught in 18 against Oregon State.
And that's one of the things Eric Cole, one of the guys that had that, he said, he got death threats after that.
Yeah.
I mean, he's like, hey, look, people were telling me to go kill myself. He goes, I was getting all this stuff.
Well, and to let you know, Ruskin's comments, if you listen to the audio of it, he's yelling this. Okay?
Yeah.
It's in, I mean, you can tell by the wording of it, but he's definitely saying it in anger. Now, he did say before this, before the quote I read, he said, now, if this was a younger player, I wouldn't say this, but and then he goes,
it doesn't matter, man. It doesn't matter. He's still not a professional. And again, there's a difference, and it's the same thing that I was just talking about with the kid from Nichols, right? I can disagree with his actions and I can take his actions to task, but I don't necessarily have to go after him personally, which I did. I called him a punk. Like that's the line you don't want to step across. I can say, hey, he's acting. I don't like the way he's acting. He's taunting the fans. He's taunting the bench. In this case, hey, I don't like the fact that he's talking bad about the Razorback fan base. I disagree with him. We have an amazing fan base. It's one of the best in college baseball. I know he's frustrated because he's underperformed and we're frustrated and, we understand all of that, but you don't necessarily have to go after our fandom, right? That's how you can disagree with his opinion, but you don't necessarily have to go into name calling, into personal attacks, because you've now crossed that line, and that's not a line you can uncross.
I think when you go to name calling, you've lost your ability to be the bigger person.
Yeah, absolutely. And especially on this, you kidding me? If you can't be the bigger person on this podcast, you got a problem.
Exactly.
Well,
Speaking of not being the bigger person, we got to talk about Saban and Jimbo, though. I mean, we couldn't let that go.
Yeah, Patrick, last week, Clint and I talked about this.
It's so good.
We wanted to get your take also, because I know you're very plugged into the SEC and all the thing in college football and all the things going on. And Clint and I's take was this pretty much that, Saban really, he was saying stuff that's been printed. He was saying stuff that's out there that pretty much those schools have said themselves. It wasn't anything. He didn't say anything that was a shocker or that insinuated. In fact, he said we're going to have to do this ourselves. In his comments, he said, pretty much said something like that. I didn't word it the exact way. He pretty much said, and we're going to have to do it too.
Yeah.
We're going to have to figure out a way to compete. Jimbo, my anger went to Jimbo. Okay. I said, to me, Jimbo went off the rails.
He's almost got so mad he makes himself look guilty of doing something.
There's a lot of that. Number one, Jimbo said several times about Saban, you want to know about him? Just ask the guys who've worked with him. Here's the problem. Jimbo worked with him at LSU. If you're going to be the guy that's going to come out and call out the greatest coach in the history of college football, don't put it on someone else to say their piece, right? Don't be like, just ask any of the guys that have coached for him. You coached for him, Jimbo. You tell me what he's done.
That's right.
You tell me what the shady things in the past. Here's what it all boils down to. It's two things. One, who is Saban talking to when he's making his comments?
Alabama boosters.
Correct. He's talking to the Alabama boosters. We need to step up and get these kind of deals done so that we continue to have the number one recruiting class in the country. That's the first thing. Number two, what was Jimbo projecting? He was projecting that Saban was accusing him of cheating. And so as you said, Clint, there's a little bit of a guilty conscience in there, right? It is a little bit of, hey, I'm not cheating. And he said it repeatedly. Oh, we're doing everything by the book, right? By the state law. We're doing everything by the book. He never accused you of cheating. And and Nick even said that at the start of the FCC meetings on Tuesday. He even said, look, I'm not accusing Jimbo of cheating. He did everything by the rules. He's saying, what he was saying is, one, and he's not going to say this part out loud, I need my boosters to step up and start doing this stuff. And two, we need to regulate this better. And that's what he said at the meetings in Destin. And he's right. There needs to be better regulations on NIL stuff. And the major issue is when the NIL stuff got passed, the NCAA just abdicated their throne. They were like, you know what? We're not going to mess with it. We don't want to have anything to do with it. We're going to let the states figure this out. And now we have 50 different laws that govern how NILs work because there's no national, and then the federal government's trying to get involved and make this happen. When in reality, if the NCAA had just started and said, hey, we're going to make the guidelines, we're going to take input from all of our partners, and we're going to figure out the best way to make this work. All they said is, hey guys, don't use it to recruit and y'all figure it out. And of course, the first thing that happens is they're using it to recruit. And the different states have all kind of different laws. So everyone gets to do things at a different pace. So Saban's talking to his boosters saying, hey, we need to start buying these kids so that we can have the #1 recruiting class again. And two, Jimbo overreacts and thinks Saban's accusing him of cheating, which sounds a little bit like a guilty conscience. And he just goes complete scorched earth, when in reality, Saban didn't say that. Right. Which in essence actually makes this much ado about nothing, which is even funnier.
That's right.
Now, obviously, you've probably paid attention, Patrick, to coaches' meetings before more than I have. Because to be honest with you, this is the first year I know of them having one because I paid attention. But now, is it unusual for them to have a seating chart?
No, I mean they come in with assigned seating.
Like, you go in a conference room, you just sit wherever if you're looking for people. But
no, they usually will have them. They'll usually have them seated. They'll have placards in front of where they're sitting. And it's probably, I'm guessing it's probably alphabetical order. It might be seniority or something like that. They did it
by alphabetical order.
Yeah.
By university.
Right.
Which I thought because I thought what they were worried like Lane Kiffin when they released it. They're probably worried Lane Kiffin would come in and switch a couple of them around. Like, I'm going to put me here.
Right.
Just put Saban next to Jimbo.
Well, and the funny thing is, half of those guys have worked for Saban before. Like, it's not like he doesn't have all of the sway. I mean, the arguably the three of the four most powerful guys in that conference. I'm including Brian Kelly in there, who never worked for Saban, but Saban, Kirby Smart, and Jimbo are all three of the four of them are Nick Saban guys. Saban himself, and Kirby was his defensive coordinator, and Jimbo was his offensive coordinator at LSU. So they all know each other. I don't think it's going to be super contentious. They're going to get through what they need to get through. Everybody's going to be kind of polite and deal with it. And ultimately, the main thing they're trying to figure out is how do they regulate this thing? Because right now, it is a bit of a gong show when it comes to NIL. People are doing all kind of things. These consortiums are coming together to pay recruits for. This is, to me, the #1 problem, right? The whole point of NIL is supposed to be, I am paying you for your name, image, or likeness to do something for me, my brand, my business, my car dealership, whatever the case may be. What we have now is we have these consortiums that are being put together. It's 50 different donors putting money in, and we're basically just paying the players to play.
Yeah.
At this point, they're not coming back and returning anything with their name, image, or likeness. That's the #1 problem right now. And if you want to make the rule, hey, just pay for play, okay, like whatever you want the rule to be, they've got to figure out how to make it so that they can enforce it and it's universal, where South Carolina and Beamer is not dealing with different rules than Nick Saban is in Alabama, than Kirby Smart is in Georgia, that Jimbo is dealing with in A&M. And then when Texas and Oklahoma come in, now we've got a whole new bag of cats to herd. It's going to be a little bit of a nightmare scenario here unless someone will make some universal rules regarding this NIL stuff. Is
it true, Patrick? I heard this on the radio one day, and it was actually a caller on a show, so I don't know if it's probably not true, or it could not very well not be true.
I mean, it's a great source, T.
Yeah,
it really is.
Yeah. I use them all the time, Patrick.
Yeah. Caller on show. Yeah.
In Louisiana, are they allowing NIL deals for high school students?
Yes. Yes, wow. That is 100% accurate. As a matter of fact, we have
that source was accurate.
Yes, absolutely. That caller was indeed correct. Yes, so we have high school NIL deals. We have a kid that plays at Parkway High School in Bossier, the Shreveport sister city. She's basically the #1 basketball recruit in the country. Coming up here in the next recruiting, Gino Oriema's been here, and every coach that in women's basketball has been down here.
Well, Gino's been down there. She's the truth.
No, Gino's been there, and Mulkey's obviously come up from LSU, and all of them have been in here. Well, she has an NIL deal, and her name's actually on a billboard somewhere in Bossier. I haven't seen it, but her name's on a billboard somewhere in Bossier. The real guy, y'all may be able to guess who this law is kind of being attributed to, and that's Arch Manning.
Okay, yeah, I can see that.
Yeah, everyone's kind of calling it the Arch Manning law, because even though he doesn't need the money, his family doesn't need the money, his uncles are wealthy beyond belief. Everyone kind of thinks Arch Manning is the reason this law was put into place, so that he can profit off of himself, because he's the most notable quarterback recruit that we've had in this state in years and years. So he gets to work.
So let me ask you, Patrick, because this is totally off the subject of what we're talking about.
Oh, good.
Put it up. Where do you think Arch ends up?
Oh man,
if you were gambling, because you hear all the time it's down to Georgia and it's down to Texas.
Yeah, it's hard not to think he goes to Alabama. But he said that he's going to a place that's a great college town. And you don't exactly think of Tuscaloosa as a great college town. Interestingly, I don't think of Austin as a great college town, even though it is, and it doesn't have a professional team. Like, I don't necessarily think of college athletics when I think of Austin.
Right.
But
a lot of fun. Well, because Alabama got the #3 quarterback.
Right.
They got him, and they're like, but it's like Arch.
Yeah, but Alabama can stack QBs. Here's the thing. He wants to work with someone that is going to take advantage of his skill set. And obviously he is, a gifted passer. He's actually way more athletic than either of his uncles. He plays on the basketball team. He plays on the baseball team. He actually was a terrific runner when he was playing at Isidore Newman. Texas wouldn't surprise me. To me, the dark horse is Ole Miss, and it's because of Kiffin. Yeah. Kiffin is a guy that he's on the forefront of offense. He knows what he's doing. His quarterbacks have a great time. They work in a great system. I wouldn't be surprised, especially with Archie, right? In the history of Ole Miss with Archie, his grandfather, I wouldn't be surprised if he goes to Lane Kiffin at Ole Miss. The only caveat to that being, if you go to Ole Miss, now you got to contend with Alabama, you got to contend with LSU, you got to contend with Arkansas, all in your own division, right? Mississippi State. that's, to me, it's going to be the most fascinating subject to watch is where does he end up going? And if he goes to Steve Sarkisian at Texas, that also wouldn't surprise me. Sarkisian's a great quarterbacks coach. So I don't know. My other thought process on that is, would he want to step out from Archie and Eli, obviously, who both went to Ole Miss? Peyton went to Tennessee. I mean, you got Heupel at Tennessee, who's a terrific quarterbacks guy, but he runs a different system. It's not really, it's more for athletic QBs. Would he want to step out from outside of his family shadow and maybe go to Texas?
No, and Sark runs an offense that would probably fit him better. I remember Otis Kirk wrote an article here. We got a 4-star that committed to Arkansas, Malachi Singleton. And Otis said, for Arkansas's offense, this is the perfect guy.
Yeah.
He's perfect for this offense. So, you got to find the guy that can fit him.
Mm-hmm.
Like, yeah, as much as Arkansas fans would love to have, which we never had a shot at Arch Manning.
Right.
But just saying he wouldn't be a good fit for us. No,
right.
Be a good fit for him.
Well, yeah, Kendall Briles isn't running a pro style offense where the dude's, in the shotgun dropping back 3 steps and firing. It's much more of an option, oriented. QB can run a little bit, that kind of, even though Arch is, again, he's more athletic than most people think because they think of Peyton and Eli. I mean, I think he's going to go somewhere, and that's why I think it's Kiffin or maybe Sarkisian, because they're both really good quarterback coaches, and they feature their quarterbacks in their systems, not necessarily with their legs, with their arm.
See, and I don't want him to
Texas is going to be a tough ball for him to go there, because I think that's going to be a tough transition for them into the SEC.
Sure. But it's not like Sarkisian doesn't know what the SEC is about.
Well, that's true. Sarkisian, but you also have to build the type of recruits to compete in the SEC.
No, I don't think Texas is that far away. The main difference is going to be they're going to go into a league where typically defenses are going to be a little bit better than you're used to when you're playing in the Big 12, even though schematically some of the best defenses in the country are in the Big 12. Iowa State and what they're doing up there, they do some really good things defensively. What's going on at Baylor with Dave Aranda, they're doing some great things defensively. So there's some great defenses in the Big 12, just not athletic like you see in the SEC.
Well, and I think, at the end of the day, a football team, even now in college, is only as good as the quarterback. I mean, I sit here, me and Travis were talking last year, talking about what Arkansas do, and I said, look, they can win 8, 9, 10 games if KJ Jefferson's special. I said, if he's not special, they may win 5 or 6, but KJ turned out to be one of the better quarterbacks in the SEC. If Arch Manning goes to Texas, it's going to jump them light years.
Yeah, I mean, you can't hide your quarterback anymore. It's just not you can't play defense. You can't rely on your defense like you used to. Teams in the 90s and 80s, they could come in there. I mean, look at Nebraska. Nebraska had a run of just who knows who they were at quarterback. They were running the option. It didn't matter who was back there. They got an occasional Tommy Frazier in there that was special, but it was for the most part just kind of average dudes. And because their defense was so good and because their offense was just sort of a machine, they could hide the quarterback position. It's not really the case anymore. Quarterbacks win you games now. They do not just simply manage games anymore.
No, for 100%. I mean, there's so much to do now. I mean, they're talking about how KJ comes up and he's got to make all the reads like this, He has to come up and read that. Now, one of the other big changes, we've talked a little bit about the NIL comments, but the other thing that is the transfer portals out of control.
Yeah.
Now, me and Travis were kind of having this conversation, and I'm gonna let him ask the question because he worded it so much better than I did. He articulated it, and I sound like a third grader trying to give directions to the supermarket.
Well, Patrick, on the transfer portal, we're of course it's changing college sports, right?
Yep.
Now, one of the ways that the changes are happening is the money that's going to be going toward diverting from high school recruiting to recruiting the transfer portal, recruiting transfers, meaning you're going to start directing your staff different directions. Is this making high school recruiting less important? And I'm not saying less important. I mean,
right.
I always been important.
My point to Travis was,
are you going to spend less time? Are you still going to get the offers to the ninth grader? So, the ninth grade stud that USC offers,
right? Because I don't think you're ever going to out high school recruit like Alabama, USC, but you can beat them with the transfer portal.
Well, so here's the thing. By and large, unless you come into a situation like Matt McMahon came into at LSU, right? They fire Will Wade and all of his guys leave. They literally had no one on the roster at one point, and he has to come in and he needs guys. So he hits the portal. He brings some guys from Murray State with him. He hits a kid from Northwestern State. He gets a couple of high school kids, but he needed guys now. Now, here's the one major problem I have, and that is everyone blames the transfer portal for this, but it's the transfer portal is simply a list. And I think people need to understand that. It's just a list. It's a clearinghouse of players who are saying that they are open to the idea of transferring. It doesn't mean they're leaving. They don't have to go. They can come back if they want to. It's just that, hey, I'm available to be talked to. The real issue driving this, and I don't think enough people talk about it, is the NCAA after COVID granted immediate eligibility to transfers. It's a one-time deal, but instead of, hey, if you're transferring from, Kent State to Alabama, you've got to sit out a year. You no longer have to sit out a year. Now you're immediately eligible. And another thing a lot of people don't know is that was only the rule in football and basketball, that transfers were immediately available in every other sport. If you transferred in soccer, you're eligible right now. As soon as you transfer, they just adopted that rule for the Big Two, which they had never done before. So a lot of people talk, transfer portal is awful. Transfer portal is awful. No, it's just a list. All right. What's driving this is the idea that you don't have to sit out a year when you transfer. And I think to me, the major issue here is not high school recruiting. It's junior college recruiting, because this is now junior college recruiting. You're just going from a 2-year institution to a 4-year institution. I don't think you're going to see it really affect high school recruiting, other than, hey, I got a real bad need at linebacker. I can either go get this 5-star high schooler who you're going to go get anyway, but I'm also going to go get this kid in the portal who was at Ole Miss because he is ready to go and I can plug him in day one and play. These are junior college kids, basically. It's the same JUCO system we've had. The difference is they haven't been at junior colleges. They've been at 4-year institutions. I think this all evens out eventually, and I think everyone finds their footing, but we're only in year 2 of the immediate eligibility issue. And so because of that, you're seeing the Wild West. There's 3,000 kids in the portal because they think that the next spot they go is going to be the better spot for them to end up. And a lot of them end up nowhere. They don't have a place to go, and they don't know that yet. And eventually that's going to kind of be the thing. 4, 5, 6 years in, you're going to have enough cautionary tales where, hey, listen, I thought the grass was greener. I hit the portal. I had nowhere to go. By the time I said, I need to come back to the school I was already at, they'd already filled my slot and I had nowhere to go. And those are the kind of things. It's kind of was it Scotty Thurman, right? That left early and then didn't really have anywhere to go. So it'll get there, kind of like the NIL stuff. It'll find an equilibrium. It's just the NCAA deciding to make all these transfers eligible immediately has thrown this into just the Wild West. It'll get there. It's just going to take some time. And to me, it's never going to stop high school recruiting, because you're always going to want 5-star kids that hopefully you can keep in your program for 4 years. what I think you will see is I think you'll see fewer high school studs that will go to smaller programs, right? It used to be you would see a random 5-star on occasion end up at at an Arkansas State because he loves Arkansas, or not a 5-star, 4-star kid or 3-star kid or whatever. Now those kids are going to the highest level to start with because the smaller schools are going to be the ones that are hitting the portal. Nick Saban doesn't need to go get 10 guys in the portal. He needs to get 3.
Well,
whereas
having that conversation that you see your Arkansas and Ole Misses, I think, fit for the portal more than you see like your Alabama, Clemson, like your middle of the road lower programs.
Yeah, Alabama doesn't need to go get 10 portal guys because they've got 10 5-stars that have been waiting in the wings for the last 2 years. They go get that one running back that they need. They go get that one wide receiver they're looking for, and they can kind of plug holes. And most of the other places you're going, all right, Ole Miss is losing this kid. Okay, we got these 2 high schoolers coming in, but you know what? We're going to get this guy who's got 1 year of eligibility, this guy who's got 2 years of eligibility, and by the time they leave, these high school kids will be ready to go. They can almost stash their high schoolers, so to speak, to try to get them ready by using a 1 or a 2 year kid that comes in as a transfer.
Right. And you saw Arkansas did that brilliantly with Felipe Franks and KJ Jefferson.
Yeah.
Well, I think another way it's going to hurt is schools like, say, a Northwestern, who gets an under-recruited kid.
Oh, it happened this year.
That they get, and they all of a sudden, first 2 years, they turn him in. All of a sudden, he hits a growth spurt or whatever.
No, it literally happened this year. We had a kid named Kendall Coleman who was at Captain Shreve here in Shreveport. I don't know how many offers he had, but not many. He signed with Northwestern. He was considered basically a rebounder and a shot blocker. He gets at NSU. He bulks up. He puts on 20, 25 pounds of pure muscle, and he becomes a double-double guy. This year, as a sophomore, he averaged a double-double. And then what happens? Now, this was somewhat complicated by the fact that the coach retired that had recruited him, so that kind of makes things a little different, but he ends up going to LSU, right? LSU comes and gets him. Now, again, LSU didn't have any players. They needed guys. There was the retiring coach, all of that stuff, a lot of factors that were involved. But I think one of the real fears at the level of Northwestern State is that they become feeder schools, and they become the sort of minor league, the AAA, the AA farm systems for the major powers. That, like you said, you get a kid that's under recruited, he shows up. Oh, we missed this guy. I don't know how, but it turns out he's an absolute stud. Okay, now he's transferring to one of the big boys because he wants to go prove himself at that higher level. I think one of the major issues you're going to find is 4-year players at one university are going to become more and more scarce, especially 4-year kids at the smaller schools, because they're going to either overvalue themselves and think, oh, I should be somewhere else, and the portal gives me a free chance to go somewhere else, or they are a kid that was undervalued, blows up. Now they're going to be recruited. They're going to, everybody's going to be contacting them. They're going to, okay, I'm going to put my name in the portal and see what happens. And then they end up leaving.
And they're going to be able to go to a bigger city where they can get more NIL money.
Right. And that's the other issue. That's the other aspect of it, is the ability, if you're Kendall Coleman, I don't know if he was getting anything in NIL money at Northwestern, but he turns around and goes to Baton Rouge. Hey, now he might have a walk-on deal. Maybe he's got a Gordon McKernan deal, whatever. Now maybe it's just one of those consortiums that they've put together, and he suddenly gets $20,000 in a year just for playing basketball at LSU. And for a 17, 18, 19, 20-year-old kid, that kind of stuff's hard to turn down. Hell, for a 45-year-old guy that's sitting right here in Shreveport, it'd be hard to turn down.
That's right.
Now, I'm not asking you to speak of this circumstance because you might know something that you.
Then why are you asking me? Come on.
Well, how bad do you think tampering is going on?
But here's the thing. It's always gone on. Yeah. It's just, they can legally tamper now. Tampering has always gone on. It's, hey, I'm contacting this kid's AAU coach. I'm hollering at this kid's dad, his uncle, you know, most of those bigger kids have a handler, right? It's, oh, you want to talk to me? You need to talk to my, talk to my Uncle Jimmy over here. And then he handles it. That's always gone on. It's gone on since the beginning. Now, a kid can go, my name's in the portal. Now anyone is legally able to speak to me at any point in time.
Right. But, you know, like I'm sorry, I can't remember the kid's name. You told me like 5 seconds ago.
Kendall Coleman.
Like,
yeah.
You know, would Eric Musselman get a message? And I'm not saying Eric Musselman would.
Right.
Do this.
Well, he was one of the kids that was after Coleman in the portal, by the way. He had a 40 school list.
Right. Yeah.
Yeah.
So, you know, like maybe he's not thinking about going in the portal, but somehow like an Eric Musselman said something to Uncle Jimmy, like, hey, if he was in the portal, I would talk to him. Right.
No, that happens all the time. It's happened for the last 50 years. It's continuing to happen, and it will continue to happen. And you still, by the way, can't talk to these kids if they're not in the portal. At least you're not supposed to. You still can't go and tamper with kids if they haven't put their name. Once they put their name in the portal, it's fair game. You can just call them on their phone if you want to. Yeah. But before that, it's still got to be, hey, I'm talking to his AAU coach. I'm talking to his uncle. His cousin it's been that way forever. And the other issue is most of the time when you're talking to a kid, it's a kid you already have a relationship with when you recruited him in high school. Right. So you know how to get in touch with Uncle Jimmy. You know how to get in touch with the cousin that's got the contact. You know how to get in touch with the AAU coach or the high school coach or whatever the case may be. They already have those contacts. It's very rare that you would just out of the blue try to contact somebody that you've never had a contact with before, unless it's the portal. Once their name's in the portal, there's like, hey, this kid's from Colorado. I've never heard of him before, but damn, he averaged 19 and 12 at Colorado State. We're going to go get this kid. Let's contact him.
Yeah. All right. Well, guys, we could keep going on this stuff forever. And
I don't know what y'all, I would sleep at some point. I'm just saying it may not be forever.
Well, I got one more question for you. Okay.
All right.
This is just a funsy question, right?
Okay.
All right. Last night I went and watched Top Gun. Okay. Shirt. Okay. And you two guys are two guys that I've enjoyed many road trips listening to music. Okay. Or just cruising around listening to music. You know, me and Clint listening to CCR and the Eagles back in the day. And Patrick, you and I going across OBU's campus listening to Little Nelly or some Jay-Z, or even broke out some New Kids on the Block one time.
Yeah, why not? Why not?
Or some Devil Went Down to Georgia with me playing.
Absolutely.
Charlie Daniels.
Oh, Charlie Daniels. And Clint, I don't know if you know this, but Patrick can hit all the high notes on How Deep Is Your Love by the Bee Gees. He can hit those high notes. Okay. It's something to behold.
There's a video of it out there somewhere. I just don't know where it is.
Here's my question for you. Something we don't see on movies nowadays is good soundtracks. What's your go-to? Like, what's the top couple of movie soundtracks do you think that you like, that you say these are two movie soundtracks, two of the greatest, whatever?
Top Gun is on the list.
It
absolutely on the list.
In Forrest Gump too, that soundtrack, it was like a 2-disc set. It's got Bob Seger on it. It was a great soundtrack.
Oh, yeah.
Another soundtrack that I thought was really good, and the movie was okay, was Southpaw. Had a good soundtrack. It's got a good workout list to it.
Okay.
If you want to clang and bang.
And one more recent that I really like was, but it had a lot of good old rock is the Guardians of the Galaxy.
Yeah.
Yeah. No, you're right there.
And Thor Ragnarok also had some of that as well. Some of the old classic rock stuff. That's what I appreciate about like Taika Waititi, the director of Thor Ragnarok, who's doing Love and Thunder as well. Like the Love and Thunder trailer is Guns N' Roses, right? As I recall, it's he's using a lot of that nostalgia. You mentioned Guardians of the Galaxy, like he had his cassette tape that had all the old music on it, including Brandy, which is one of my favorite songs of all time. But yeah, Top Gun's hard to beat. You got a lot of Kenny Loggins in there, and Loggins is amazing.
K-Log.
I mean, Kenny Loggins.
Caddyshack was good too.
Yeah, Caddy.
We didn't even brought up Footloose.
Oh,
you think about how you think about how prolific Kenny Loggins was in the 80s and early 90s in movies alone. It's insane. Like the guy was just a hit maker. He was like
greatest hits. When you listen to his greatest hits, you think of the movies because
absolutely.
It's in the movies that he did.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
You're dang right. Like if you want my favorite movie soundtrack, just give me Kenny Loggins' greatest hits.
Yeah.
Now,
all right. And then you got to throw in there was that one album that was like the Rocky greatest hits.
Yeah.
All the Rocky movies.
Yeah. Rocky 1 was good. Rocky 4 was pretty good.
Yeah. With little James Brown in 4. Coming to
and wasn't he in 4, right? Didn't he?
Yeah, he sang when Apollo.
Yeah, when he came in. Yeah.
Apollo come in as
before he got killed.
He didn't even go to the man's funeral.
Throw in the towel.
Nation to nation. So anyway, yeah, good stuff, man.
Thank you, James. Thank you, James Pale.
That's right. Well, guys, Patrick, we appreciate you jumping on here with us, man. It's always great talking to you and kind of getting you see things a little more from the national perspective a little bit because in that realm more, and you see things from that sort of point of view a little more than we do. And although we try to see things from a broader perspective a little bit than just a couple of Arkansas bumpkins. But when it comes down to it, that's what we are, Patrick.
Hey, sometimes it's okay to embrace who you are.
Well, Clint, man, have a great week, dude.
Made it through another one.
Made it through another one. 64. We've done 64 of these, Patrick. You believe it?
Wow.
Hey,
wow.
And that is Gabe Saracel, Big C, Bigger T super fan. My stalker. That's his football number.
Oh, is it? Oh, man. Well, Gabe.
Gabe.
Be the first to comment, man, again, as usual.
First like, first view, first comment.
That's right.
Hey, you guys are dangerous.
That's right. Dangerous. Well, as always, man, Patrick, great hanging out with you.
Yes, sir.
And
yes, sir.
Y'all, that's the end of the show. Peace out.
Sweat, work, filthy, dirt, harvest, hurt, kingdom come. Sweat, work, filthy, dirt, harvest, hurt, kingdom come. Listen, that's why I sweat when I work. My hands get filthy down in this dirt. Won't see no harvest till I hurt. Crying your kingdom come. Listen, I wake up in the morning, I bow my head to pray. Mama told me if I don't, ain't nothing gonna change. These prayers breaking up hard drive so I can sow the seed.